All right. Good evening, everyone. It's good to have you with us tonight. This is Athens-Clarke County Mayor Kelly Gertz, and I'm here joined by my colleagues on the Athens-Clarke County Commission and staff members for our monthly voting meeting here on the 1st of March, 2022. We have several opportunities for public input that I'll discuss in just a couple moments, but I am going to begin by asking the Clerk of Commission to please call roll for us.
Davenport, Parker.
Here.
Blink.
Here.
Wright.
Present.
Denson. Is he here?
No, ma'am.
Poole.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Thornton.
Here.
Handy.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We do have meetings ready for approval from Tuesday, February 1st, Monday, February 7th.
Mayor Gertz, I have a quick question for the clerk.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay? Is Patrick on? Did I hear Patrick say he was here?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Got it. All right. So we have meetings with minutes ready for approval from February 1st, February 7th, and February 15th, and I would entertain a motion for approval of those minutes.
So moved. Second.
All right. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, minutes are approved.
Can you give me the motion and second on that, please?
I second. Carol.
Okay. And who made the motion?
I did, Melissa.
Motion from Commissioner Link, second from Commissioner Myers.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. I am going to be serving as chair for the first half of the meeting and then turning it over to Commissioner Myers. So given interest in public input, just want to amend the agenda to move to consideration of items 15 and 16 immediately upon adoption of the consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion for that modification.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Myers, second from Commissioner Houle. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Please note, Clerk Spratlin, Commissioner Davenport opposed. Commissioner Davenport is now here. All right. So I have a couple of announcements that I would normally make at the end of the evening. Just want to announce a handful of boards, authorities, and commissions. We, of course, previously enshrined the new Public Safety Commission, and given that one member, Edward Robinson, was unable to serve, that seat will be filled instead by Cassie Evans. So I can email this to you, Madam Clerk, so you have that. Also, a mayoral appointment. There was one resident member of the Newton Bridge Tax Allocation District Committee that had not been seated, and so that will be filled by Tracy Davenport. Then we have the full complement of members of the Mall Area Tax Allocation Commission. And so those members are Vincent Jolly, who's a resident, Rick Dunn, also a resident of the area, Denise Ricks, a resident, Michael Seibert, co-owns a business adjacent, and Jennifer Zorn, who also co-owns an adjacent business. So again, Madam Clerk, I believe I've sent those to you, so you do have those names and contact information.
Thank you.
All right. And is there any other written communication, Madam Clerk?
No, we have none.
All right. Move over to my agenda here. All right, so resident input will come ahead of the consent agenda, ahead of old and new business, and then at the conclusion of the meeting. In every case, residents are provided with a single 3-minute opportunity, and when you are standing at the podium, the light will turn green when it is your time to speak, yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining, and red when your 3 minutes are concluded. If you do have input, please provide your name and the item to which you're speaking at the beginning of your comments. I did first want to ask, is there any commissioner who would like to remove any item from the consent agenda for discussion tonight? Is there any commissioner who would like to remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion tonight? All right. Hearing none, I'd like to open it up in the chamber for any resident who would like to speak to the consent agenda. And I'll tell you briefly, those are items 1 through 5 on our agenda. 1 through 5 on our agenda. Anyone here to speak to the consent agenda items 1 through 5? Is anyone here to speak to items 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? All right. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Have a motion from Commissioner Wright for approval of the consent agenda, and there's a second from Commissioner Parker for approval of the consent agenda. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, consent agenda is approved. All right. Next opportunity for public input are items 6 through. Apologize, I'm scrolling down on the computer here. 6 through 17. Is there anyone in the chamber who would like to speak to items 6 through 17? There is. You have 3 minutes. And again, as I provided a couple moments ago, the light will turn green when it's your turn to begin, yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining, and red when your 3 minutes has concluded. So good evening. Just let us know your name and the item to which you're speaking.
Hi, my name is Brett Thurmond. I represent the owner of the parcel that's under consideration tonight on agenda item 6, which is the amendment to the RSPD plan development in 300 Sorenson Ridge. And real quickly, I want to appreciate and thank Commissioner Davenport for putting together a meeting with those concerned neighbors in the neighborhood. We had a good discussion online. Unfortunately, I was out of town, and it was a total Zoom meeting. But we had a good discussion, went over a lot of their concerns, and I think we addressed those concerns. The Planning Commission was voting for a recommendation to support this action, and we agree with their recommendations of that action. I think they put on 2 conditions, and we were recommending dropping one and keeping the other, which is to keep the 2 properties separate, 300 Sorenson and the parcel adjacent to it. And we agree with that. Again, this proposal is only for a single family house. We're putting the house on an area of the property that is fully developable. We're outside the buffers, and we meet all the standard conditions for a single family house on this particular lot, and we would request that you please vote in favor of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thurmond. All right. Is there anyone else to speak to items 6 through 17? 6 through 17. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Ross Watson. I live on Sandstone Drive in Cedar Creek. And what I'm here to talk about is item, I believe, 16, and that I oppose the ordinance as written to amend the ACC code for the increase the salaries for the commissioners. And I've sent each one of you an email today regarding that. What I'd like to do is tell you what I'm basing my concern with, and then we can conclude it. But if you go back as an example, October 5th, your commissioners meeting, we had item number 12, which we were going to spend $200,000 on vehicles. And the commissioners all became experts on what is the proper vehicle to be buying, what is the model, what is the make, and et cetera. And there was a lot of discussion going on. And fortunately, it did pass, but there was a lot of time expelled that's taken you away from what your real job is, which is being advisor staying focused on what the goal is of ACC-Clarke County. Another thing that was on that particular program and was number 12, which regarding the UGA cameras. And this was a safety issue, if you remember. The UGA submitted a proposal that had been in the works since August to add additional cameras, and they were requesting a right-of-way. The entire staff of Blaine Williams' people reviewed it, everything from the engineer to the interim department director, and Mr. Williams himself signed off and approved of either option 1A or option 1B. I'm not going to go into the particulars. You all have that information, and you had it before the commissioners meeting, but unfortunately, the whole thing got tabled, and within a day after the commission meeting, the university wrote a letter to the mayor and copied the commissioners that they had seen the vote and they were withdrawing the application for your assistance. So I see my time's running out. Utilize your Blaine Williams staff. We're paying for him and his people. Utilize them. Don't duplicate their work. We're not paying you to be experts in vehicles and motorcycles and chairs. And, you know, you're there to act as a board of directors type person and support this community, stay focused on where we want to be in the future. And in conclusion, I would just say safety is never negotiable. And when you try to negotiate safety for some dollars or some move for UGA to back off of something else they were doing, that was absolutely terrible. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Is there anyone else here to speak to items 6 through 17? Again, 6 through 17, which are old and new business.
Hi there. I'm Jason Pratt. I'm here to speak in regards to item number 16. I'm speaking in favor. I'm a middle school teacher, so I just kind of want to offer my own input. I think I kind of approached this topic of an increased salary for commission workers for just kind of access. I'd like to imagine just like we have a talent pool in Athens, and I would like everyone to be able to, who wishes to serve, to be eligible. I know just for myself, and I'm in a pretty fortunate position, I don't have any dependents. If I were to have to be a commissioner, not interested, but if I had to, I would have to probably take a job as a sub or a halftime position. And even then, I don't know if I would be able to. I certainly wouldn't be able to support a full family at the salary that was established back in 2001. So the 33% increase over 20 years, is that math like 1 or 2% a year, seems very reasonable. And I just hope we approach it from an issue of, can anyone who wishes to serve financially support themselves and offer their talent and insights? Because I feel like without that, we're freezing out a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different careers that would have really good insight to offer the commission, but are just with a drop in the bucket for what we spend every year. We're missing out on those talents and ideas. And I'd like to just finish by thanking everyone for your service, and much love, and I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt. Is there anyone else in the chamber to speak to old and new business? Any of the items 6 through 17?
Good evening. My name is Shane Blackwell. I'm speaking on item 15. All right. For those that don't know me, I'm Shane Blackwell, an Athenian, retired veteran, small business owner, and founder and president of both the Northeast Georgia Business Alliance Foundation and the Northeast Georgia Black Chamber of Commerce. I'm here this evening to first thank Mayor Gertz, the Athens-Clarke County Commissioners, the City Manager Blaine Williams, and the Economic Development Director Ilka McConnell, and rest of the Athens-Clarke County government team for recognizing, believing in my organization as a participant in the 2020 CARES Act. It was a diverse group of 22 organizations that came together under the leadership of the commissioners with the common goal of ensuring equitable distribution of CARES Act funds to those in need. We would like to see this funding go to the previous groups who participated in the 2020 CARES Act with the city, take recommendation from Athens-Clarke County Commission and community to ensure all Athenians have an input and build a relationship with the city and have a say-so. I would like to see us prioritize implementation of this project and process versus time towards consultations. And I feel we can get this out by the end of May or June or the 1st of June with summer programs coming up for our nonprofit organizations. Now, I say that because the commissioners back in 2020 were very innovative with getting the money out. You all worked together and you made it happen. And you was the first one in the state, the entire state of Georgia, to make this happen. You got it out. We had other mayors, other commissioners throughout the entire state call our organization for input. They asked for our blueprint. We passed it along. So again, we made it happen. You all made it happen. So again, we are looking for the money, the ARP to get pushed out in a timely manner, to get pushed out before next year, the end of December. This money needs to be out now because we're still in the midst of a pandemic. And again, you all were innovative. So again, I ask you all to be innovative again and get more input. And again, if we just do the implementation versus the consultation, that'll cut down on, alleviate the taxpayers' money spending. So let's get this done, please. I appreciate your time. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Blackwell. Is there anyone else in the chamber here to speak to any of the items on old or new business? Those are 6 through 17. Good evening.
No, I'm here to speak on new business today. First off, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak. And what we have is a situation with the homeless in Athens. And we need, see, today over at Covenant Presbytery, they were trying to get them out of there. Police were trying to get the homeless out of there. What we don't want to happen is them to leave and them not to have anywhere to go. See, I know how this can affect people and, you know, our tax dollars and stuff like that, and we're spending tax dollars. But yet at the same time, we're talking about lives. We done already cut down people's salaries. We done already done all this other stuff and cut down trees. But yet and still, at the same time, what are we doing? What are we doing now in life in general? And so what I'm asking you to do is please build a facility. Please see this matter as a need and take care of it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Can I get your name for the record?
Patrick Armour.
Patrick Armour. Thank you.
I am Evangelist.
Thank you. Right. Is there anyone else here to speak to any of the items on old or new business? Those are numbered 6 through 17 on our agenda. All right. Thank you, everyone who provided public input. We are going to move to that agenda. And as amended, we'll begin with item 15, which is a framework for American Rescue Plan Act funding. And be interested in having a motion on the floor so we can proceed.
I'll make the motion.
Go ahead and state your motion, please, Commissioner.
I make the motion that we proceed with the American Rescue Act that's on the agenda now.
Do you have a motion to the item?
Oh, I thought I wanted to speak to it. So I didn't know if you had to second it or something. Does somebody have to second my motion?
No, I was just requesting
okay.
A motion for approval of an item.
Okay. My motion is, well, let me take my motion back then, because I just want to speak to it. So let me take it back and let somebody else do that.
Commissioner Parker, I see your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the commission defined option presented by Commissioner Myers, Houle, myself, and Commissioner Denson. Items 1 through 8 which includes attachments 3 through 9 as outlined therein, with the following amendment. Allocate from the $7 million in youth development and violence prevention program area $500,000 to summer 2022 community nonprofit programming for youth, and direct the manager to return to the commission with the model to support already established programs for summer 2022 with said funding as soon as possible. And I'll wait for a second to explain more, or wait for someone to second to say more.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Parker, second from Commissioner Myers. All right, go right ahead, Commissioner Parker.
Thank you. So I just wanted to outline a little bit of what this will do. Essentially, it puts into motion a process and timeline for final program funding, dividing the American Rescue Plan Act funding into so-called buckets, as we've often referred to it in our conversations over the last year. These buckets are youth development and violence prevention, homelessness, affordable housing, behavioral health, and business development / workforce support, as well as future needs, which may include public health and infrastructure and other special projects that may arise. And I want to particularly shout out Commissioners Davenport and Thornton for bringing our attention to public health and infrastructure. I guess all of these are, priorities identified through conversations that we've been having with our constituents over the last many, many months. And given the particularly pressing need for us to prioritize youth violence prevention that we are hearing from pretty much everyone in the community, particularly leaders in that space, it also would release $500,000 of youth development money funding for summer programs, as I think Mr. Blackwell requested at the podium just now. We're also asking staff to work with identified advisory groups and community stakeholders in deciding long-range plans for these categories, as well as how to measure their effectiveness. So we'll have lots of community engagement going forward, and there's flexibility too. It gives staff discretion to adapt this process based on feedback from these various stakeholders as needs arise. At last, I got a couple more things I can say really quick. I want to give a shout out to Commissioners Hamby, Thornton, and others for emphasizing equity and that attention that they have called to that issue as part of why we have directed staff here to continue to utilize an equity impact assessment tool throughout this process to ensure the highest need communities are effectively engaged and served, with an emphasis on qualified census tracts and or low income neighborhoods and households, which I know was a priority for Commissioner Wright as well. We're also authorizing 2 additional full-time positions for administration of the entire program. And I think we have been very responsive to the needs of the community that have arisen through conversation over the last year. But there's still essential tension here that will likely remain in the months and years ahead. On the one hand, many, many people, including speakers at the podium tonight, are frustrated that it's taking us so long to get these funds into the community, as we've been talking about this for a minute. I share that feeling, and to keep it real with y'all, I don't know how I would forgive myself if we lost another young person to gun violence, or another family in my district got evicted, or we have to hear another story like Mr. Armour about a homeless person with nowhere to go because we stalled and because we failed to act. On the other hand, there is a desire for transparency and community engagement, as raised by Mr. Blackwell and others, and I feel confident that the process outlined here can bring that. I want to reemphasize that we are not approving final program allocations tonight, but formalizing our priorities consistent with the issues raised by our constituents for a very long time. And I'm personally excited to move forward with the consensus building process that we have baked into this proposal, and would like to tonight authorize staff to start in that engagement. So thank you for everyone's patience, their input, their hopefully continued involvement moving forward. And I really want to thank staff for working closely with us to bring this to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Parker. Before I turn to Commissioner Myers, as seconder, Attorney Drake, could you read the budget ordinance so we have that in front of us?
Yes, sir. Just 1 second to get it back up. An ordinance to amend the FY 2022 operating capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide funding from the American Rescue Plan, ARP, Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds for designated programs and uses and for other purposes. And Mr. Mayor, I had one question. I was understanding there's going to be a carve out for summer youth programs, but I wanted to clarify, we haven't identified those providers yet. I don't remember seeing that in RFP. That will go out. I don't remember seeing that in the CD.
So as I understand it, this would direct staff to present a process for that summer carve out.
Correct.
And
So I
you're
think that
correct,
would be
no
fine. I want to make
providers.
sure, Manager Williams, do you understand that, Manager Williams? Do you have any concerns with that?
Thank you, Attorney Drake. Yes, just let me share a couple of thoughts with you about that. So first off, it's March now. In 60 days or 75 days, school will come, CCSD, usually mid-May. And so that's only 75 days out. With ARPA funds, it's my understanding that you have to go through some type of selection process where, you give people, and I think that's good for transparency and giving people time to respond. So I just want to make sure I'm in keeping with your timeline here, because if you put it out on the street for 30 days, allow people to respond and then try and quickly vet those and get those back to the mayor and commission for approval and then draw the contracts up and everything, you might be pushing into May or June. So I'm just saying, if you want us to come back to you in a month from now with the model process, that's going to, those awards, you'll be pushing into midsummer before you get the money to the people that are doing the work. So I just want to make sure that your timeline is tracking with what you're asking us to do. So said another way, it'd have to be a real quick process, obviously, to get money in the hands of folks this summer. So it probably would not involve an outside committee being involved. We would just ask for responses, and we, rate them based on some criteria that you would transmit, and then we would just send those recommendations to you for approval to try and do it very quickly, which is not, I just want to be careful that everybody understands, is not the model I think we're projecting for the rest of the funds and how we engage the community. So as people watch tonight with different varying levels of understanding, I just want to be clear that I think you're trying to meet an immediate need, but that is not what people should expect, I think, for the rest of the CDO as presented. So I'll just leave those questions out there for any commissioners to address or the mayor.
Thanks, Manager Williams. I think that's a good overview and reflects my anticipation too. And I think all the advocates for some summer programming understand that, the desire is a bridge while we build this larger program so that we have some youth who are positively engaged during that time period, and understanding that that necessitates an attenuated process with probably a small review committee. And so I'll have a conversation with you tomorrow, Manager Williams, but I'd love if, there could at least be some progress, say by the agenda setting meeting 2 weeks from tonight. I do have input from Commissioner Myers as seconder, and then see Commissioner Houle's hand. Go right ahead, Commissioner Myers.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I've turned to you, Commissioner Thornton. I apologize if you wanted to comment after Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, I'll wait till after Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, I'm glad that we were able to add the amendment that Commissioner Parker brought up. I think the months passed quickly, and we're looking now at summer just around the corner, and it's really important. There's a lot of people doing really great work in the community, and I hope we can find a way to support that work as we're moving forward. I'm really happy to be part of this CDO, and I just want to sort of clarify and explain some points. I had all these pieces of paper on my desk from this American Rescue Plan and from different versions of this CDO that actually aren't that much different from the in terms of the dollar amounts from the materials that Mayor Gertz shared with us back in January, and they're building on discussions that we've had over months in different meetings. And then in the shorter term between now and when we put something out a month ago, really the group of us who worked on this CDO, we're not adding anything significantly different, but clarifying the process and creating something that was a little bit easier for everyone to understand, and then emphasize some of the points that were brought up at our last discussions about the equity in the advisory groups that we're putting together, and highlighting that in different ways. And I think it's really important to, I know there's a lot of documents, but there's a general directive here. And I know I was looking at this again the other day, and it goes over the different category areas. And what we have said in this CDO is that what's in this supersedes what's in these flow charts that the staff very wonderfully created for us. But for example, for the youth development, what we have in the CDO is that the initial group for youth development and violence will be Clarke County, ACCUG, and identified community partners who specialize in youth programming or violence intervention. So we have these is slightly different, and we're not just highlighting the school district, for example. So I think it's really important to look in here. I think I just want to emphasize as well the flexibility that's built into this. This is the beginning of a process to get us go down further along. And in fact, we have built into these flow charts as statements that this says that this process flow chart may evolve based on the continued input of the mayor and commission, ACC staff, advisory groups, and the public in general. And I think that's really important to realize. I know there's been discussion among some of my fellow commissioners about other needs in the community. We do have almost $5 million in unassigned funds. And if down the line we find that we need more funds in another area, there's nothing keeping us from evolving this process and looking at things more carefully. What we're doing here right now is getting started and moving forward, because it's taken much longer than most of us thought would happen. So I hope that we can work together. A lot of the things that are in Commissioner Thornton are things that can be incorporated in this as this process evolves. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Thornton.
I don't know if Jesse wants to speak first, because I am going to make a substitute motion. So, but I'll go ahead on. Do you need to speak to this one, Jesse?
No, you can certainly present and make a substitute motion if you'd like, Commissioner Thornton.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank commissioners for at least acknowledging that some of the other commissioners had input into the creation of this CDO. But there were a couple of things and in the CDO that I'm promoting is a little bit more clearer than all of those pages that you're expecting people to read. One of the things is we should be able to set aside $1 million right now for youth development for the summer program. I found out Friday that the Athens Housing Authority will be opening up their centers, and I think Commissioner Parker was wondering why I waited so late. I just found out Friday that they were opening their centers. So those nonprofits that could be housed need program and operation funds. My point was working with the Housing Authority and any other youth amenities and set a solid $1 million to get us through the summer. It is not the kids' fault. It is not the organizations that work with youth that we let the summer sneak up on us, and we've been busy. I'm not denying that, but I am saying that the CDO that I'm proposing, I'm asking to set aside $1 million just to get the youth programs up and running. That would leave another $6 million as we move forward. The other thing, my proposal, it puts a cap on consultants. If you pay on a consultant 15% of any of these pots of money, you are spending up most of the money. So I'm asking that we put a cap on consultants of $10,000. The last thing that Commissioner Myers alluded to was things down the road, and we have this pot that we can identify later. We need infrastructure now in our low income communities. And that should already be included and public health. After all, I know I'm out of time. After all, this COVID money was designed to address issues after COVID. So we need to make sure public health and infrastructure and poverty areas are addressed. And we need to go ahead on and make sure we have $1 million to roll out. And we also need to look at who is over these pots of money, which also my CDO addresses. So my motion is my substitute. That would be my substitute motion.
So the substitute motion is for the commission defined option as presented by Commissioner Thornton. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Wright, I want to turn to you for any comments as seconder, and then I'll.
I do feel that it's important that we not have the important role of infrastructure and public health in a unassigned category. I think that the designation of funds for those is important, especially with the late news that we had last week of the different state ARPA grants that we wanted for broadband, of all things, that we have SPLOST money for, and which is almost seed money. So this can help us move that forward, as well as the water and sewer infrastructure that our community needs help on, some areas more than others. So that this commission defined option that Ovita put together addresses those concerns for me. I think too that when we're talking about the qualifying census tracts, I think that we, as we study that a little bit more, the past and the future, that we don't bog down, that we make sure we're addressing areas that maybe didn't get identified correctly for qualifying census tracts. So I think that this does that too, without nailing down too many details, so that our advisory boards can take their assignments and do the work that we want from the community level versus the details. I feel like in the commission defined option of the 4 commissioners or more that put that one together, I think that the details in that are going to hamper the effectiveness of the advisory boards that have been assigned. So that's why I support Ovita's.
Thanks, Commissioner. Turn to Commissioner Houle and then Davenport.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to speak to the original motion, which I think I'm planning to support, but I guess I want to clarify if this substitute motion is for the proposal as I'm reading it. It also says to include and implement items number 3 through 8 from the CDO. That is the original motion. And so that would include the pro forma and the budget amendment and all the other. I guess I'm having trouble making sense of how to include those in the substitute motion. So maybe if I can get clarity on that, and then I'll move forward with other comments.
Commissioner Houle, my real motion is to table this and to work out those details. I don't think the original CDO that you worked on with Commissioner Myers and Parker and Denson, I don't think those. I don't think there's anything really wrong with it. The biggest problem I have is the monies that we're going to be allocating, or an open door for consultants, the length of the time to get it done, and two crucial areas being left off of, which would be public health and infrastructure.
So, Commissioner, are you just modifying your motion to table?
That was my original, to just table it, but I don't want to lose my CDO. But that to me is what I think. I think they're both workable. I just thought we needed to table it. We got 2 good CDOs, out there, and I think we could work this out before next month. That would be my motion. I mean, is what I really wanted, Commissioner Hull, and that's what I was calling you for the other day, but I just got tired.
So Commissioner Wright, are you in concert with the table as the seconder?
Yes, I think that we are at a good point. I wish we were at a retreat right now with both of these details points that we're at to table.
All right, so the motion on the floor is the table. All right.
So I think if the motion is the table, then we have to resolve that before we can move on to anything else. So I'll just say
you can certainly speak to the item broadly, Commissioner.
Okay. I would prefer to move forward with the original motion put forth by Commissioner Parker for that CDO. I think that the desire to table to build in more input is, as I understand it, based on an idea of trying to get more public input, and I think that the CDO as presented is well designed to do that. And also, there's a great need for us to move as quickly as we can, and so this allows ourselves and staff to begin to move forward where we are prepared to do so more immediately, including with the $500,000 being directed toward what we're assuming will be an RFP for some summer programming this summer, as well as the housing and homelessness monies that I think we're better set up to begin working on sooner, while we continue to hone in on the process around the other categories that are outlined therein. So I'll be excited to support this CDO moving forward, and then very much welcome the continued input from more of the community in the process that's going to continue to take months and even years to see a lot of this through.
Right. I've got Commissioner Davenport, Link, and then Hamby.
Maybe muted, Patrick.
Muted, Commissioner.
Sorry about that. I'd like to thank Denson, Parker, Hull, and Myers for their hard work on this CDO. And I'm going to try to be brief under my 3 minutes. Fortunately, Commissioner Thorne, I have not read your CDO, but I will be voting against both of these proposals. Many times, every time we get a bucket of money, and hopefully I can get this in, we get a bucket of money, we always are acting quickly, as much as we need to act quickly as fast as we can. We did it with the prosperity package, we did it with CARES Fund, we're now doing it with ARP funds. I've been preaching that we need to slow down. We're seeing some hiccup in some of the things that we have done. I really don't see any much transparency in any of the process that took place. I like the kudos for the infrastructure that I was begging for. I was trying to be broad in my ask. I also had some questions and concerns about the buckets. Definitely Commissioner Thorne was preaching to the choir about community input. And that was put in at the last minute, where there was an amendment that was made to satisfy some of the people in the community. That should have been done at the beginning. I'm trying to be as cordial and as nice as possible, but at the same time, we have some severe community needs. We've always had the same community needs. And our FY22 budget, and our FY21 budget, we continue to give money to homelessness. We continue to give money to these community groups to help with youth development. We got some money in the bucket for a community garden. We gave some money last year for Athens Land Trust and some of these other community partners. And it's not that I'm not saying that there's not a community need for youth development or homelessness. It's just that we need a strategic plan and allocating our funds, because we can't continue to fund these projects. I'm not saying we can't. We certainly can, but we need to be responsible to the taxpayers, responsible to the money that we have in place. I just have a lot to say, and I see my time is running out, so I will come back later.
Thanks, Commissioner Davenport. I'll turn to Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I will be supporting the CDO, and I really appreciate the tremendous amount of hard work that Commissioners Parker, Denson, Hull, and Myers put into this, and the outreach that they gave to me and to the response to members of the community in being fluid and in crafting this. I believe that there's fluidity built into the CDO and built into the selection process for these oversight committees and their ability to continue taking community input. And I believe there's been sufficient transparency. We've been having public meetings about this for going on 6 months now. We've had multiple work sessions. We've had multiple retreats that were open to the public and attended by members of the public. We discussed this at length at agenda sessions. We need to move forward and get these funds out there. People are hurting, and we do have desperate needs in this community, desperate needs that we couldn't meet without these funds. These are federal funds. This is a gift in our laps that that comes along once in a lifetime, probably. And we typically don't have funds that we can spend in these ways, that we can spend on programming. The state is very, very restrictive on how we spend our own public dollars and how we spend state dollars. And the federal government is giving us some leeway to actually spend money on people rather than infrastructure, rather than building things. And, I will tell you that I believe homelessness is in the top 2 or 3 problems in this community. Every week we get messages from constituents about this issue. There are people suffering and there are people in the community that are living in fear because they are uncomfortable with homeless people in the community. And it's our obligation to address those needs, address the people that are suffering, and to make people feel safe and to provide and to make sure people have their most basic needs met, which is a roof over their heads. I'm very leery of the Commissioner Thornton's CDO and the $10,000 cap on consultants. I don't see how we could get a decent work product out of a consultant for a housing and homelessness strategic plan for $10,000. We want the best possible work and the best possible plan, and those plans often include copious amounts of community input, and it costs money to do that. So I will definitely be supporting the CDO and looking forward to seeing these funds get out there into the community and looking forward to the infrastructure funds that we'll be getting from the federal government and from the state. We put a lot of money in our SPLOST for broadband, but it turns out the state is also allocating lots of funds, and we've got federal infrastructure that'll be coming to that. So we already have a head start on the broadband through our own SPLOST funds and the plan that's being developed right now to implement that.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Turn to Commissioner Hamby.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. And I'll just be brief. And I'm in support. I'm in support of holding it just simply because I think the CDOs, just looking at both CDOs and taking the time to do that would be fine. I also think, certainly with the where we're voting on tonight is the structure and the directives to guide this process, which is a real important vote. I mean, you have built into here very specific stuff, and I understand you saying it's fluid, but there are very specific guidelines that you've put in here, which I think the community ought to look at and weigh in on. I think the community ought to look in and weigh on the timeline. I mean, certainly with all these categories, very important categories. I'm not disputing the categories, but the categories all have strategic plans that will take a year. I mean, we won't be done with the strategic plans until February of next year. None of the dollars go out the door unless you count the 500,000 or the million from Commissioner Thornton's motion. That will go out the door until June or July of 2023. I do think that these dollars were meant for us to have a good structure in place. I'm not denying that, but also think these dollars were meant to be put to use in the community a bit quicker. They are American Rescue Plan dollars. They're not, I think that the name itself indicates a bit of sense of urgency, at least more urgency than what's been laid out here. Also, the final point, I appreciate the efforts to add equity into the process, but really equity ought to be at the forefront of the process. We have several groups that have already been in the structure designated as part of being the initial advisory group, and I know the mayor's trying to trying to work on the GIC makeup, but that's, as it stands right now, that's an all-white group that's going to be handling our important affordable housing aspect of this. So, equity needs to be put on the forefront, and with all these, the timeline needs to be consistent. So, let's vote on all the initial advisory groups at the same time instead of laying it out like it is now. So, I appreciate the time, I appreciate the effort, but I just think a little bit more time for people in the community to weigh in on the timeline and on how they think the urgency is needed, like Mr. Blackwell was talking about in the letter we got from Rick Dunn. So at any rate, I'll be voting to hold it if we can. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. I'm going to turn to Commissioner Denson and then return to Commissioners Thornton and Davenport.
Thank you, Mayor. And so I do want to point out an important thing, because I share definitely, and I've shared this with my colleagues, I share a lot of the same concerns that Commissioner Hamby brought up about the timeline, the anticipated timelines for the funding plans that we have here. And I think an important aspect of the timelines, and I wish the font was larger, but I guess trying to fit it onto a page. But at the bottom of every one of these timelines, it says, note, this process flow chart may evolve based on the continued input of the Mayor Commission, ACCGov, staff, advisory groups, and the public in general. And I will state that I will be supporting this first to go forward, because I also agree that this timeline pushes this out way too long. I want to see this done thoroughly, but I do think some of this might be a bit generous in the amount of time unnecessary to say create the strategic plans of 8 months. So I would like us to be able to see where we can trim up this timeline. But I will say that one way that's not going to make this money come out faster is if we delay this again for another 30 days. That is going to delay it another 30 days before we even get a structure to be discussing. And if the argument is that we want to have a delay so that we could have a thorough public input process before even having a process to move forward in, I mean, if we're all being realistic, that's going to take longer than 30 days. But thankfully, the reason that this anticipated timeline is so long at this time is because of how much community engagement is baked into this. Again, strategic plans developed by a facilitated community engagement process for every one of these things. So we're going to have very thorough community engagement, but I do want to see this timeline compressed when we can. And my understanding is that we will have opportunities to push that, especially at the work sessions scheduled for a few of these items, a few of these buckets. So I guess what I'm saying is I think that we need to vote today to move this process forward so that we can kind of expedite this process some ways. And I look forward to us working as a commission, as a body, with staff and with the mayor and with community partners to find ways that we can expedite this timeline as we move forward. Thanks, you, Mayor.
Commissioner. I got desire for input from Commissioner Edwards, who has not spoken yet. So, Commissioner, I'll turn it to you before I return to Thornton and Davenport.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm ready to move forward. This structure that we have developed here has been under development for 5 or 6 months, multiple retreats, multiple agenda meetings. So all I see here is us voting on priorities with some amounts, and then public input will be following. I understand the urgency. I'd love to just sit here in this meeting and throw out cash amounts to fund for organizations that I know do good work. But actually, there's procedure that we need to follow. There's Treasury guidelines we need to follow. There's process we should follow to ensure that our citizenry's interest is taken into account. So I see nothing wrong with this structure. The public input begins after this vote. So I think we need to move forward here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Thornton.
Oh, I thought Commissioner Davenport. Me first?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let me be clear about parliamentary procedure. because I made the motion to hold, does that now mean that we do not vote on my CDO?
No, we would vote on your motion to hold.
I would rather vote on my CDO.
Well, Commissioner Thornton, it's either one or the other. So either.
That's what I'm saying. I'd rather for the no vote to be on the CDO. It's real clear that I don't have the votes, but let's just make it public, okay? If that's okay.
And my second will be for the commission defined option that Ovita put into the packet, or that's in the packet.
Okay. All right, that's clear. All right, Commissioner Davenport.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Yeah, I withhold my comment.
All right. Any further discussion for first round of vote? All right, Clerk Spratlin, if you could do roll call, and this is for the Thornton developed commission defined option.
Thornton,
Yes.
Hamby,
Yes.
Davenport,
No.
Parker,
No.
Blink,
No.
Wright,
Yes.
Denson,
No.
Poole,
No.
Edwards,
No.
Myers,
No.
3 yes, 7 no.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll return then to the original motion, the commission defined option with the amendment as presented by Commissioner Parker.
Parker,
Yes.
Blink,
Yes.
Wright,
No.
Denson,
Yes.
Poole,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Thornton,
No.
Hamby,
No.
Davenport,
No.
6 yes, 4 no.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Motion carries. All right, we're moving on the agenda to item number 16, the proposal for a new salary structure for members of the County Commission. Entertain a motion.
I move to approve the item to increase the commissioner's salary as described in the agenda item.
All right, motion from Commissioner Myers. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, second from Commissioner Denson. Motion from Commissioner Myers, second from Commissioner Denson.
Mr. Mayor, can I read the motion, please? Or
Please
the
do.
ordinance?
Yes, thank you. I was going to call on you right now.
All right. An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia to provide for an increase in the salary of the commission and for other purposes.
All right, thank you, Attorney Drake. I appreciate it. All right, Commissioner Myers, as the motioner, I'm going to go ahead and turn it to you.
Yes, yeah, I have talked to this motion before, and so I'm going to keep it brief, but I want to just briefly explain the reasons for putting forth this one again. And it is to increase the pool of Athenians, like one of our commenters said today, who can consider running for commissioner. Right now, you either have to have a source of wealth, another source of wealth, choose to live a frugal life, or have another job. In addition, the job is listed as part-time, and it is part-time. We're not asking for a full-time salary, but it's a very full part-time job. And we need to compensate commissioners at a livable wage. We also need to acknowledge and allow time for the many tasks required of a commissioner. And we need to give commissioners, through paying them an adequate salary, the time to do all the many tasks that are involved with being the excellent representatives that we want to have. Serving as a commissioner is a public service. It's an honor one should take on humbly and with huge responsibility. But this is a job that I believe we want a diverse group to be able to contemplate taking on. I have included a statement to my many people. I think there's about 800 people on my mailing list, explaining my reasons for supporting this. I have posted it on my neighborhood listservs. I have not gotten pushback. I have gotten support from many of my commissioners and a few people who have challenged me as well, but I've gotten more support for this. And so I'm happy to put this forth as an ordinance now, and I would hope that my colleagues will support this as well.
Thanks, Commissioner Myers. I'm going to turn to Commissioner Denson as seconder and then to Commissioner Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm supporting this because I do think that, as Commissioner Myers spoke, it will offer more flexibility, make this job more accessible to people of more varied backgrounds and of family situations and of employment situations. I know that I've heard from many of my colleagues at times, and I've experienced myself, where we haven't been able to make a meeting or fulfill an obligation or go to an event because of the day jobs that we have, and other requirements. And that's always going to happen somewhat. But when you have somebody who's possibly working as their full-time job, a minimum wage job, working retail, working as a server at a restaurant, bartender, next to the largest employment class in Athens-Clarke County, we should point out, it becomes very difficult to be able to take on this job also at which is a pretty low salary. And also when we speak to the needs of folks who have children, it makes it very difficult. Childcare at this point is one of the most expensive costs that families have to deal with. Outside of my mortgage is the second highest thing that I've had to pay for in my family. And I can say from personal experience that, I had meetings pop up very quickly that I needed to go to and had to pay quite a bit of money to be able to get a babysitter last minute to come to my home and watch my daughter that I took care of 3 days a week at home while my wife worked, so that I could go to those meetings, and paid for that out of my pocket as I did because it was important for me to attend that meeting and fulfill my responsibilities as a commissioner. So when we speak to actually making sure that families, parents, single parents who might have children, they all deserve the ability to be able to serve their community as a commissioner. They should not be blocked out of that because the amount of money that they are reimbursed with for doing that work is not enough for them to pay for childcare or to take time off from that other job they have. Doing this will make that flexibility, make it more accessible, and I think it's the right thing to do. And I will speak to this that I'm not doing this for any kind of personal reasons. Very likely, I won't be able to qualify to run again, and would not even benefit from this because this raise will not take place until January 1st of this year. So I'm doing this specifically because I believe that this position needs this raise increase and deserves it. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. I've got Commissioners Wright, Davenport, Thornton, Parker, and Houle on tap. So go ahead, Commissioner Wright.
Thank you. I have, first of all, I have respect for everybody's opinion on this. I, process-wise, was really happy in December when this topic came up and the swift timeline that the mayor wanted to move it to committee for study. I really regret that that's not happening because I think that would have given us the transparency that I believe this process has lacked without us knowing how the research was done. We haven't studied how we can afford this raise, as well as how it affects our ability to also, and if we can, continue to reimburse for travel, training, meals, and the things that many commissioners do. And I know that it does cost a lot to get certification. I did that. It took about 3 years. But so the process for this, I'm comfortable with. I'm not going to be supporting the salary raise. I think that one of the things we have talked a lot about, and I'm ready to research in committee, is the funds that we want to allocate for our boards, authorities, and commission volunteers. These people are putting in hours, immense hours, to help us in processes that they have been assigned, but yet we're going to jump ahead of them getting theirs, except for our 2 new boards and commission. I'm glad we did that, but I think we're leaving them behind by putting this topic ahead of that. And then another little story I wanted to share. This reminds me of when my husband and I were applying to DFACS to be therapeutic foster parents. It was very intense process of training, but it was interesting to me. We had a great deal of financial information, our personal finances that we had to turn in, and it was because it was very important for them to train and have foster parents that were doing it for the foster child and that they weren't doing it for the money. And this seems relevant to me as well, to make sure that we're all doing this for the good of the community, just as our foster parenting was for the good of the child. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Turn to Commissioner Davenport.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm a big supporter of livable wages, and I'm a big supporter of people making making enough money to live off on, because it's one of the reasons why we have poverty in our community. But I look forward to hearing from my colleagues. But I'm having just some partial issues with this, and I look forward from feedback, and hopefully I can get it done in 3 minutes. Okay, so. One of my biggest issues that I see is that, yes, this is part-time, and we chose to do this, and work for Walmart, UGA, whatever, but we chose to do this because we're passionate about our communities, and those are the candidates that I would like to see to represent Athens-Clarke County, not those who are seeking for financial reasons. Yes, this is a burden, but that's a choice that's one of the trade-offs that it takes to be an elected official, is that you're gonna have to give up something to do the civic work that the people in the community want you to do. But we all knew what we were getting into before we ran and got elected. The other problem that I see is staff overtime. There are some commissioners who are overworking staff. Staff are quitting, staff are complaining. And they're not complaining because of the work that I asked them to do. They're complaining because of the work that some of the people who don't have jobs that are asking staff to do. And we've heard time and time again from Blaine Williams that's, staff down. And I say that to say because, I say that to say because we need to take care of our own household first, make sure that our employees are taken care of before we take care of ourselves. Think about and even some of our part-time workers, who do community service, not community service, who do service in our community, to cut our grass and keep our parks clean and stuff, who are working part-time. This salary actually be a little bit higher than theirs. And think about the sacrifices that some of the people like police officers, teachers, people in the Army, they choose to make those sacrifices because they enjoy that position. And I feel reluctant to give us a raise before we give the people at the library a raise. Hopefully that's in the pipe for our budget this year. But finally, I know I'm almost and I wasn't one who was pushing for this originally. I've been pushing for this for years because a raise is deserving. But think about the school board. They haven't gotten a raise as well. And and they're sacrificing a lot of their time and commitment because they are passionate about their job. But also, we're setting it up to where it's literally you can't have a job to do this job. So those are probably the only candidates that we're going to have. So we're losing that diversity in our community. But the last thing, and I'm gonna rush through this, is the numbers. So this is an election year. So 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 are up for election this year. And we have to get this done before qualifying. The issue is that 3, 5, and 7, unfortunately, will not be able to participate in the democratic process this year. So if they vote yes for it, that's great. They've been good good people for those who may fill their seats. But at the same time, it leaves 1 and 9 up for election, who was up for election this year, to vote on this. And more than likely, 9 is going to vote no. But we will have to vote. 1 and 9 will have to vote for this, where 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 will get the benefit because they're not up for a re-election. And more than likely, Commissioner 4 and 10 are going to vote no on this. So that leaves 2, 6, and 8. 6 and 8 just became commissioners. So, if we vote yes on this, it's easy for them. My thing is that we should delay this and be statesmen about this and allow everybody 1 through 10 we can vote on this later, and everybody 1 through 10 go through the election cycle, and then whoever wins in 2025 we get the benefit. I'm doing this because I love my community, and I'm born and raised here. I'm not doing this for the money.
Thanks, Commissioner. Good day, Commissioner Thornton.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to, and Commissioner Davenport is correct. I definitely am voting no on this. But I'm going to give you my reasons. Hopefully I can understand my writing. Last year we had the opportunity, and most of the community doesn't even know this, for a homestead exemption that would have helped low-income people get a decrease in their taxes. It was fouled up because of politics. Then I want to also mention about paying people more to attract them more. It also means that because we do not have a timeline to serve, people can serve forever. And I've heard it said that Commissioner Thornton can have that seat forever. No, she can't. But nobody should be able to make a living just to sit on the commission and where we should be serving and not be served. I think if we were going to do this, we should have made this recommendation in connection with the charter. We should have connected this to the charter, and it looks like we use the charter when it's convenient for us, and when we don't want to use the charter, we just do whatever we want to do. Last year, we also voted to give employees a 1% raise, and some of my fellow commissioners were very celebratory, when we could have given them a 12.2% raise. I know there were some questions, but nobody ever talked to see how we could give our employees a bigger raise. I'm quite sure that 1% just went into their taxes. My last point is we have heard concerns from, I think Commissioner Davenport mentioned it, staff. We know that the Sheriff's Department had a hiccup because of their raise structure. They're going through a raise structure process now. We don't even know what that's going to look like because we're not even talking to them. And lastly, even when the governor was offering these incentives for our public safety workers, we had commissioners that didn't even vote for that. And I hope if you give yourself a raise that you can't justify a millage increase at budget time. No, I'm not supporting this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep it short. I want to give a very concrete example of how this measure will, which I am supporting, will increase our applicant pool. So I am really thankful that all of us are healthy enough to be here at this meeting tonight and be at most of these meetings. But if we were to, adopt this increase and invite more applicants into the pool, it would support folks that, for example, in the disability community, are not allowed to receive SSDI benefits if they make more than $1,300 a month. So if one of us was gravely enough ill that we could not, that we could receive benefits from the government for disability, that means that currently that person would be stuck making $15,000 a year because they could not get any help from the government. And so the question to me boils down to, how many of us want our colleagues to truly represent the diversity of this community in ways that sometimes we don't even talk about fully because we don't have those experiences and we don't bring those experiences to the table. And so I just wanted to highlight that particular thing that has been left out of this conversation. We talked about socioeconomic differences and racial differences, et cetera, but it's a lot of kinds of diversity in this community that impinge upon people's freedoms in a lot of different kinds of ways, in very, very material and concrete ways that I hope that one day we have someone sitting here to speak to, and that I think supporting this wage increase will enable. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Turn to Commissioner Houle, then Link, and then if there's no other comment, back to Davenport.
Thank you, Mayor. So first, just real quick, speaking to Commissioner Davenport's point on the delaying action, I think no matter when we act on this, the phenomenon of our staggered cycles is that there will be some people who vote on this and then it will take effect when the other half swears in. So I think that phenomenon ends up playing out regardless. It's just sort of who's up or not. I think it's telling that we have commissioners, including Commissioner Denson, who seconded this, who are very supportive of this, even though with all of this redistricting hoopla, they've lost the opportunity to benefit from it at all. The next point I just want to make is, we've really been looking out for our employees first before acting on this at all. So, first we raised the wage floor to $15 an hour for all ACC employees. In some cases, that nearly doubled the wages of some of the lowest paid employees that were working for the government, and to $31,200 for all full-time employees. So this proposal here would peg us below still the lowest paid ACC employees. Then, we made sure to get the ARPA expenditures handled first to give hazard pay and retention bonuses for all of our employees, as well as additional bonuses for the first responders using that state grant. And then finally, in last year's budget cycle, we included a wage compression study in that last budget approval so that when we raised that floor for the lowest paid employees, we could ensure that in this coming budget cycle, we'll be looking out for those folks who are most affected by that to get them paid more as well. And they who are already making, over 31.2 will make even more in a smart way that doesn't just hand out a random $20,000-$30,000 extra dollars to people making six figures, but does ensure that, we really look out for everybody and have a good solid structure for rewarding the people doing the good work in this community. So I'm really looking forward to that study coming forward and for us implementing that in this next fiscal year, which will also mean that all of our staff will be seeing the benefits of that in July, even though this would not take effect until January. And the last point I wanted to raise up is that there's a proposal that we've heard a lot about in the state government that may or may not pass, but if it does, it would give $5,000 to all commissioners. And so this average that we're pegging this to of comparably sized communities, we're not pegging ourselves to the highest paid communities. We're pegging ourselves to just the average of comparable communities. Well, this proposal will absorb that $5,000 without anyone in Clarke County getting anything extra. But those communities that we're pegging ourselves to the average of will actually get extra. So if that state proposal does pass, then the average we're pegging ourselves to will again immediately become above. So I think this is actually a quite humble proposal that does, I think, the minimum amount needed to ensure we can get a solid pool of applicants, as people have spoken to needing a real need for, while also, making sure that we take care of everybody else most and first. Thanks.
All right, Commissioner Link.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Hull. I think you covered some of the facts and figures that that are behind this, and there's been some misleading information about employee raises and this, mind you, throughout all these decades when employee raises have been, staff raises have been regular, the commission has not gotten a raise. 21 years, not a single raise for working on the commission. In the meantime, the cost of living has pretty much doubled. The cost of housing has doubled, particularly in our in-town neighborhoods, particularly in my neighborhood. I don't know how I could have run for this position or supported myself in this position if I did not have a spouse who has a full-time job who supports our household. Not all of the folks out there who have the passion to perform these duties have that. Some folks on this commission have retiree salaries from decades of serving in academia. Some people have spouses who are tenured professors who are heirs to large properties in Buckhead. Some people have lucrative UGA positions, UGA contracts. But the majority of Athens-Clarke County are low-wage workers. We have a tremendous amount of low-wage employees. Many of them are highly educated and work for UGA, like here. I actually make less in my UGA position than I do in the current measly commission salary. So I believe in a living wage for all people, including people who do the work of local government. And anybody who does not support this increase in salary that merely brings us up to the current average, and once that average is increased, we'll still be way below comparable population counties. And I will argue that we do more work than comparable population counties because we are a combined city-county government, and we have a very complex community, a very diverse community. We have the challenges of a university in our community. So this is a long overdue proposal, and we need to get quality people who have the passion, who can run for this position, not merely on their passion, but can also have a decent way of life and be able to merely afford to live in the district that they're running for. So if you don't support this, you don't support a living wage for all workers.
Thanks, Commissioner. And just as a process note, as localities interact with the state, while the floor has remained the same, the state does issue a COLA for all county commissioners statewide. So that's how we've moved from the approximately 15 to the approximately 19 and change. So, Commissioner.
I'll wrap up by calling the question.
Seconded.
All right. So I've got a motion from Commissioner Link, second from Commissioner Parker to call the question. Believe Attorney Drake, that compels us to vote on that. Is that correct?
Yeah, it needs to be a 2/3 vote.
Attorney Drake, is that right?
It does. It needs to be a 2/3 vote to cut off an important debate.
I'm checking in, Mr. Mayor. I think that's right, but I want to make sure I'm right.
Okay.
Trust but verify, right, Jed?
Yes. Motion cannot be discussed. The motion cannot be discussed or debated. As soon as the chair hears a vote, they must immediately take the vote. It takes 2/3 of the voting members in favor to cut off debate.
All right. So the motion is to cut off debate and move to the main question. The motion was from Commissioner Myers.
Commissioner Link.
Thank you. Motion from Commissioner Link, second from Commissioner Parker. All right. So begin a roll call with Commissioner Link, please, Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask just the motioner if they'd be comfortable amending it to cut off debate after we've heard from anyone who hasn't gotten a chance to speak yet? I think there's a couple commissioners who haven't gotten a chance to speak yet.
You can't do that.
Okay.
I agree, Commissioner Wood.
So it would take a withdrawn motion and then another motion immediately following anybody who's not spoken.
I don't see any other hands up, do I?
It's Mike and Ovita.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Commissioner Hamby has not spoken. So Commissioner Link, if you would withdraw the motion, then that would allow us to have Commissioner Hamby speak, who's not spoken yet.
Or, Commissioner Hamby spoken.
Okay, thank you. I won't take the 3 minutes. I just, want to say, Mayor Gertz alluded to the COLA that's been given to us each year. And with regards to the pay that we gave the employees last year, that was a bonus, and that was the pay was not the pay was just a bonus. I mean, that doesn't add to their pay as it moves forward. So I think we all have our position on this. That's fine. I understand the different positions. I do think this probably ought to be a budget discussion. On the pension board, the pension board's been trying to get their allocation brought up. Inflation's killing the retirees more than anybody, really. That's poor choice of words, but it's impacting retirees, and inflation is. So they were told that they would need to come back during budget time to ask for that budget. I remember Commissioner Myers bringing that up last budget, and we thought we could do it mid-year, but evidently we can't. So with the pension board, and I just feel like we ought to put the workers first, before we put ourselves first. I think that's important. And so during budget discussion, workers first. And I will say one final point about the average. A lot of counties in Georgia have they don't have 10 commissioners. it's rare to see 10 commissioners on a board in Georgia. 10 may be too much. So a lot of, when you look at the average, you've also got to look at the number of commissioners each of the counties have, because they may be, we represent approximately about 13,000 people, but some of these commissioners who have 5 on their board may be representing 20 to 30,000 people. That kind of skews the average a little bit there. So anyway, thank you for letting me say that, and I appreciate it. And that's all.
All right. Thank you. Is everybody ready to move to consideration of the motion on the floor?
Mhm.
All right. So Clerk Spratland, if you could begin with Commissioner Myers made the motion.
Myers,
Yes.
Thornton,
No.
Hamby,
No.
Davenport,
No.
Parker,
Yes.
Link,
Yes.
Wright,
No.
Denson,
Yes.
Poole,
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
6 yes, 4 no.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Motion carries. All right. I'm going to turn over chair of the remainder of the meeting to Mayor Pro Tem Myers. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Appreciate you being willing to take this on. Hope everybody else has a wonderful evening.
Bye-bye. Wonderful. Thank you. And here we will move on. The next order of business is number 6 on the agenda, and that's the 300 Sorenson Ridge and 181 Warren Way zoning request. And I'm going to turn this over to Commissioner Davenport, whose district this is in.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So this is straightforward, straight cut, housing, one home being developed on an environmentally sensitive piece of property. I've spoken with the residents. There's some resident concerns, and thank Mr. Brett Thurmond for being there. If it was me, if I was a county, I would just buy this property and keep it as a wetland or environmentally sensitive area. But by right, the developer has a right to build on it. It's sensible on a few trees that unfortunately will be cut down. It's just very small footprint of the home and the area that will be impacted. The developer is also interested in keeping the buffer. Well, the developer will also keep the buffer, to keep it at least somewhat aesthetically pleasing and to mitigate some of the light that be emanated from the home. I motion to approve.
Mayor Pro Tem, there is an ordinance that I need to read related to this item.
Great. Can we get our second first?
I'll second.
Okay. Attorney Drake?
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to amending a planned development for 2 parcels of land comprising approximately 2.85 acres located at 300 Sorenson Ridge and 181 Warren Way in the RS8 PD Single Family Residential Plan Development District and for other purposes.
Thank you. Commissioner Wright, as a seconder, do you have any comments?
No, I'm ready to vote.
Okay. If everyone is ready to vote, then the question is on the adoption of the motion to approve the ordinance that Attorney Drake just read concerning the 300 Sorenson Ridge and 181 Warren Way. All in favor, say aye.
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 Nays? Okay, hearing none, the motion passes. Great, 1 down. And we're moving on to agenda item 7, which is a school resource officer agreement for 2022-23 academic year with the school district. So move. Great. Second?
Second. I second it.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Commissioner Wright, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'd like to vote on the motion.
Okay. And Commissioner Thornton, do you have anything?
No. This was a little sore subject a few years ago, so I'm surprised that it's moving this fast.
Okay, well, we'll see. Is there anyone who wants to speak against it?
Oh.
No. Commissioner Houle?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm planning to vote no tonight because I know that this did not pass unanimously from the school board as a recommendation, and I continue to have some concerns about our school resource officers being fully armed as they work inside our schools, and I'd like to see that issue addressed before we, or at least have more clarity around how that's handled before we continue to participate in this agreement. So for that reason, I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any more discussion before we take a vote on this?
I would like to speak to the motion.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Parker. Please speak to the motion.
Yeah, I mean, I will be supporting this motion because I've had positive conversations with members of the school district, the teachers, staff, students about the role of school resource officers in their daily life. I do share Commissioner Hull's concerns about their being armed, but I would also welcome the opportunity for us through American Rescue Plan funding, figure out other means of us supporting behavioral health in schools. I know that we probably need additional counselors and mental health resources. I know that we very likely need a increase in restorative justice practices so that kids aren't pushed out of schools by criminalizing policies. But I will be supporting this tonight because I see that opportunity on our horizon. And hopefully next year, we won't be so bogged down with the American Rescue Plan and working very diligently on that, that we can actually address these questions before this comes to a vote.
Wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner Parker and Commissioner Link. And Commissioner Thornton, do you have your hand up or is that a leftover hand up?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me take it down. I'm good.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm good.
Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I'll echo Commissioner Parker's comments about the need for additional resources in our schools, and I hope that we can partner with the school board in identifying the needs in those schools. I will be supporting this. You know, I do have concerns about armed officers in the schools, but then again, I recognize the world we live in, and we have an armed citizenry, and we have a Republican state legislature who's about to pass a law that does not demand a license for concealed carry. So anybody can carry a weapon, you know, under their by law, you know, and I don't know many schools that pat down every visitor. You know, we live in an armed society, and that's a reality we live with, and armed police are a part of that reality.
Thank you, Commissioner Link. And if no one else has anything to say, let's take a vote on this. The motion, the question is on the adoption of a motion to approve the Athens-Clarke County Police Department School Resource Officer Program contract with the Clarke County School District for 2022-23, and to authorize the mayor and appropriate staff to execute the contract and all related documents. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Please, Clerk Spratlin, note the one opposition by Commissioner Hull, and otherwise the motion passes. Great. Now we're moving on to agenda item 9, which is the project SPLOST 2000. Oh, no. Sorry. Agenda 8. The Costa Building Renovation Contractor GMP Award. Would anyone like to make a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion to pass.
Oh, and Commissioner Parker, are you making a second?
Sure, why not?
Oh, okay, I just saw that little hand going up.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Denson, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I will be supporting this, and I'm very excited for the Costa Building to be moving forward. I do have some concerns about basically we can, if you look at the agenda item and item number, I believe it's number 13, facts and issues, kind of breaks out a proposed final schedule of how these steps are supposed to move forward, including finding the tenant uses, and then of course putting out an RFP for actual tenants to fulfill those uses. I feel like it is pertinent that this schedule and this process here be something that is baked in and that we are beholden to. And so I was originally planning on putting a CDO forward that was going to bake in some important parts of this, including going ahead and baking in, I think, something that a majority of the commission, if not all of the commission, supports, which is the creation of a Black History and Cultural Center. But so I wanted to ask staff if they could to answer a question on how we'll be rolling out this proposed final schedule and how we can ensure that this is going to be done in a timely manner as spelled out in the agenda item.
Thank you, Commissioner. I do have listening to the conversation over the last couple of weeks in the work session, I do have a process that I could offer to you. I mentioned this to the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem at the agenda setting meeting that we have monthly. So if you would consider, at the work session, we heard about a Black and History and Cultural space, potential economic development minority business space, a little children's museum, perhaps, I know elections, might need some space, an inclusion office. So there's a lot of different, things to consider. We also have some interested entities out there, like with the Black Cultural and History Museum. And there are just some additional questions we need answered, that I think more detail that everyone would benefit from. And so what I would suggest is that perhaps, because this involves the leasing of a building, we could go in executive session a week from tonight and talk more about specifically what you'd like to see. Then agreeing on a process going forward. And this is not unlike what was done a couple of years ago with the 2011 SPLOST Youth Development Center, where the mayor appointed a small task force, which included some commissioners, to create a concept for the various uses of the building, put an RFP out, and then ask specific questions for people to respond to, including the Black History and Culture Museum or Little Children's Museum or what have you. What's the proposed use, the amount of space that's needed? As you know, we've got several floors. The potential cost of the tenant fit out. In the case of the Athens Land Trust, who was a sole applicant to the RFP done several years ago, were there any external funds they could leverage to help make the, create a better product in the end? And any funds that they needed from ACCGov, whether it's in the tenant fit out or the operations, what does that look like? If they're a nonprofit or corporate status of the applicant, things like that. So you could do a transparent ask of the community based on any direction that you want for us to provide. And then you'll get the best creativity from the community in response. The other thing would be how the potential lease terms might look. You could telegraph that to folks. If you'll remember with the Athens Neighborhood Health Center, it was important to them for money that they were going to put into it, that they were going to be able to have it for long enough to realize the value of what they put into it. So you can let folks know on the front end where you want to go there. And then then we bring it all back to you and you would approve it in public, all right, for this floor, we're going to go with this floor, we want to go with that. And you would authorize the task force and staff to work further with those applicants that you name on further design and cost refinement. And that would also entail some sort of agreement where, we're agreeing on how we would interface with each of those tenants. They would all have different leases, I'm sure. So I say all that, that sounds awfully complicated, but there's varying levels of detail on ideas that are floating around. And I guess that would just give you a process once and for all to allow people to share their ideas in a formal way. And then y'all can make the decision about who goes in there. So appreciate you letting me share that.
Okay.
That's just one way to do it. Just one way to do it.
With the knowledge that we'll be meeting soon, then to talk next steps with this, I'll go ahead and I made the motion for us to support this. So I have.
Second.
Okay, that's I think we had Commissioner Parker second it to begin with, Commissioner Hamby.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so
let me. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll take your second then, Commissioner Hamby, and then let you.
All right. Thank you. I'm just going to be brief. I agree with Commissioner Denson that we ought to kind of try to move a little bit quick on this. You know, I noticed they've got the fencing up now, so it looks like construction is already happening. And maybe by the time the nuts and bolts of the infrastructure of the building get done, we will have decided the use of the building. I will say this though, Manager Williams brought up having this discussion in executive session. I mean, it just seems if we want to be transparent about this is a government building. I don't think, you know, I'd rather have the discussion in an open meeting so that people can hear what we're talking about as far as what we're doing with the building that the public owns. So I haven't heard of any sort of private sort of for-profit businesses that we're considering. So they're all nonprofits and stuff like that. So anyway, just my 2 cents worth. If we're going to have discussions about it, I'd like to have those discussions early and within the public's viewing. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Hamby. And I think we have Commissioner Thornton and then Commissioner Houle. Can't hear you. Okay.
Manager Williams, did I see you send us so much stuff, and I really do try to read it. Did I see on a spreadsheet that ARPA dollars were going to be used for anything at the Costa building?
Not at this point, Commissioner Thornton. And the reference I made then was we don't have enough funds. The funds that you're approving tonight are going to be, and in the agenda item, it also talks about doing some value engineering to take certain things out so that we can afford to go ahead and move forward with the GMP. And what it doesn't include, Commissioner Thornton, is any build out for the walls or buying any furniture for the building. And so you're remembering correctly that I made a mention of ARPA, and that as you assign those funds, it could be that you want to set aside $1 million to build out the walls and buy the furniture, you know, for whatever uses that you see fit.
So that is clearly not what we're voting on tonight. ARPA is not tied to this tonight.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Commissioner Houle and then Commissioner Parker, I kind of left you behind there. So Commissioner Houle.
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, first I wanted to thank staff for the agenda report, which answered a bunch of questions, including a handful that we had about this item. It made sense to me after reading through that report why we're using the funding sources we are, including the old SPLOST monies for the fire department's equipment. I just wanted to kind of say, following up on the last public meeting, I think it's made sense to look elsewhere for a place for something like the front porch, or what I think D.A. Gonzalez is now calling Athens Pivot as a potential project here in Athens, elsewhere from the Costa, but I do hope we'll move forward on that conversation too. I do hope that the Black History Center will be housed somewhere in this building. I think that is a solid proposal that we're hearing from many people in the community really wanting. I think this is a great fit for that kind of a space, even if it's just an initial space for them and they move. Certainly the building's adaptable enough that it could, then become something else after. But I mean, what a great way to inaugurate the reuse of this building, I would say. Did want to clarify for the public on a couple other things, because we had asked about bathrooms. And what I learned is on that first floor where there's multi-stall bathrooms, we will we'll have like the, classically gender segregated men and women bathrooms. And I do hope that we will examine our bathrooms policy in public facilities to have a more trans inclusive, more LGBTQ friendly approach to our facilities. I think that's important, and I hope that we will do that. And I was also encouraged to hear that the baby changing stations will be included in all of the bathrooms. And I guess I just wanted to clarify with the manager that when we say all, we do mean that even with that weird gender separation we're going to do on the first floor, that the men's bathrooms will have that too, because there are, people who appear or are identifying as male who still have to change their baby's diapers sometimes.
Great. Manager Williams, did you want to respond to that?
Yes, thank you. Yes, the baby changing stations will be a function of this. I do have an update with you. Did you change diapers, Manager Williams? I think that's what the question was. I sure did, sir.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Leave that man alone.
I did. And no, we won't go into that. So I've got an update for you regarding staff continue to work and challenge the designer about how the bathrooms could work on the first floor. So beyond what I sent you last week, what they have determined is we can actually fit 4 unisex restrooms into the same amount of space as required for the 2 traditional male and female restrooms. And that will provide us the same required fixture counts as of building code. So we can meet code and not lose any additional floor space. And there may be a slight cost increase, but in the overall scheme of the project, pretty minimal, less than $10,000. So that doesn't even really require any formal approval by y'all, but that's the direction I would suggest that we go in if you agree.
Well, that's super encouraging to hear. I like the emojis I'm seeing flying around from colleagues. And I guess I would just ask if there's any follow-up staff can have on what, if any, policy revision we might need so that this doesn't have to be an ad hoc every time process, but something we can standardize. I think there's a lot of good models out there to pull from. I'm thinking of the Authentic Brewing Company's approach to bathrooms that I think is quite solid among many others I've seen. So thank you very much, Manager Williams. And thanks to staff for continuing to run those rabbits, as you say.
Yeah, that's my thanks to our SPLOST staff led by Keith Sanders.
Great. And Commissioner Parker, would you like to follow up?
I think others have largely said what I wanted to say. I think we all here would like to see Black heritage celebrated in this space in a few different ways. And I trust from the manager's explanation of our path ahead that that could be the case. And then I also want to thank staff for addressing those questions regarding unisex bathrooms and working with the contractor to ensure that it can be the case. I was about to follow up about the price increase of as well as the loss of rentable square footage with trying to make that change to be more inclusive of our entire community. But I'm happy to hear that y'all worked on that. So with that, let's go.
Great. Wonderful. Would anyone want to speak against this? I think we're all good. And then I think we're ready to vote. Attorney Drake, could you read the ordinance?
I got my hand up.
Oh man, I'm missing it. Okay, go for it, Commissioner
brown.
Thornton.
It's brown. It's brown. I got to get me a yellow hand. Maybe I'm missing something here about the bathrooms. I think that I thought we all were we were really focusing on, the equity and it looks like this bathroom thing is just kind of becoming the main subject, or maybe I'm wrong, because when I go to my doctor's office, it's just the unisex is really a big bathroom, and you could put a baby changing thing in there, but everybody uses the same bathroom. So either let's. To me, that part of the conversation I lost. I don't know why the emphasis was on the bathrooms when most bathrooms now are unisex and they're big enough that you could put a baby changing station in them. So I just wanted to put that out there. If this is a money issue, let's simplify it and just make all of them unisex. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Thornton. I think, is that Commissioner Williams? Commissioner Williams, you're not. Manager Williams, did you want to respond to that?
Just to agree with her. And that's exactly that's Commissioner Thornton, exactly what we're heading forward on.
Wonderful. Thank you. Then we'll go to Commissioner Parker and then Commissioner Davenport. Did you have something? No. Okay, great.
Oh, no. All I was going to say is that was what we were trying to do in revisiting our bathroom policy. And so I'm glad that it came around to that in the end.
Okay, wonderful. Are we ready for Attorney Drake now? Yes.
An ordinance to amend the special purpose local option sales tax 2011 program budget so as to provide additional funding for project number 32 Costa building renovation and for other purposes.
Wonderful, thank you. Then the question is, the question is on the right thing. Let's pick the right thing. Apologies here. We are going to authorize the staff to negotiate the guaranteed maximum price for construction on the Costa building renovation with Sheridan Construction for not to exceed amount of $5,290,000 and adopt a budget ordinance amendment reallocating $1,758,031 from the SPLOST 2011 projects 1131072 to SPLOST 2011 project the Costa building, and to authorize the mayor and the staff to do all the related documents. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, and great. We'll be moving on to the next agenda item, which is the agenda item having to do with the fire department. And that is the Government Facilities Fire Protection Project 20. And that's about the awarding a construction contract for the addition of fire sprinklers for the old firehouse and the church Brumley House. Would anyone like to make a motion on this item?
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Hamby and a second from Commissioner Houle. Commissioner Hamby, would you like to speak to the item?
No, just ready to vote.
Commissioner Houle?
Ready to vote as well. I was just hoping that Manager Williams could clarify real quick. There was an adjustment to the contingency from the original draft to a higher amount, and if you could maybe just speak to why that was, that would be helpful to understand, or for the public to understand.
Manager Williams?
Sorry, trying to get off mute. Commissioner Houle, I am trying to remember that. So tell me again on the contingency for the fire protection. I mean, I remember why we had to reduce it initially. Because
Okay, I just saw on the agenda item that when it was finalized from the TBD things, there was also a change from the designated contingency of 96 to 233. And is that just like a standard percentage amount, basically, that was like a typo correction, or
well,
the pricing we're expecting to need more?
I'm sorry. Well, the pricing came in lower than expected.
Okay, awesome.
Great. And Commissioner Thornton, I see your hand up. Do you have something to say? Mute. Nothing to say. Okay, great. All right. Well, let's go ahead and vote on this. This is I'm calling the question on the adoption of the awarding of the construction service contract for the addition of the fire sprinkler systems for Old Fire Hall 2 in the Church Brumby House to F.W. Pashkin for an amount not to exceed $413,533, and to authorize the mayor and appropriate staff to execute all related documents. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Motion passes, which means we are on to item, the strategic plan. Yes, we are on to the next item is item 10, and that's the strategic plan adoption. Would anyone like to make a motion on this to approve the strategic plan?
I make a motion to adopt the ACCGov Strategic Plan.
I'll second.
Okay, that's a motion from Commissioner Denson and a second from Commissioner Link. And I'm gonna, where did Commissioner Denson moved around on my screen there? So Commissioner Denson, would you like to speak to this? And then we'll follow it up with Commissioner Link, and I see Commissioner Davenport has his hand up. So we'll go in that order.
I'll just briefly, again, thank staff who put together this plan and facilitated it, along with all the staff that contributed to it and my colleagues who contributed to it, and to other groups like neighborhood leaders. I think it's a solid document, and I look forward to us moving forward with it and it guiding our process.
Commissioner Link, thank you, Commissioner Denson.
I agree with Commissioner Denson. A lot of work went into this plan, not just by this body, but by staff, by neighborhood leaders. We had public meetings, which members of the public did attend over the course of several months. And I look forward to seeing this put into action.
Thank you. Commissioner Hool and then Manager Williams.
Yeah, I'm super excited to support this.
Wait. I skipped sorry, learning this. Let's go back to Commissioner Davenport, then we'll go to Commissioner Hool. Can't hear you, Commissioner.
Linda Parker today. Okay.
Yeah.
Just thank for my colleagues on their hard work, D'Angelo and staff. 3 years, actual community input. This is what we did. I look forward to seeing the fruition of all of our work.
Great. And thank you, Commissioner Davenport. Commissioner Hool.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to support this, excited that we've got this. This is a fairly landmark achievement, I think. And, you know, when we talk about the many, many things staff has been juggling, there have been some massive things that staff has been juggling at the same time, from SPLOST to the ARPA and the remainder of CARES funding that still had to be worked through. Of course, our usual budget cycle and everything, and now the strategic plan. And I think this is a great example of front-loading a lot of theoretical abstract work to then enable people to move effectively and efficiently through more of the actual work of policymaking and hiring of people and building of things and the building of the less tangible social infrastructure that this lines up as well. So I think this is a really exciting moment, and a lot of people should feel quite proud of this work. And it also certainly speaks to the large volume of time and attention that's needed. You know, it was not just the many retreats and strategic planning meetings that this body has had, but the meetings with the neighborhood leaders and staff and other folks around the community, and pulling from other comprehensive plans like the Envision Athens reports to give us something that really does speak to the many, many voices and their needs and wants in the community. So excited for this, and just wholehearted big thanks to staff. I think especially Assistant Manager Josh Edwards deserves the largest bow of all on this. So
great. Do we have anyone who wants to speak against the strategic plan? Okay, then if we've had discussion, we'll move to vote on this.
Ms. Mayor Pro Tem, if I could just add one thing.
Yes.
And I do thank y'all for recognizing staff, and I also appreciate y'all's engagement. Many of the thoughts around what ARPA is all about was reflected in the strategic plan, but I do want to point out, based on your vote tonight, that a great deal of our attention is going to be focused on engaging the community as staff, working with the advisory committees on blockbuster issues for this community. And I just want to name them out, because this is going to take a lot of our bandwidth to really make this happen. Affordable housing, homelessness, behavioral health, youth development, workforce development. Just take any one of those and you could spend a great deal of time on that. And y'all are, have decided to really push forward and engage the community there. So I think that's tied back to the strategic plan, but that'll be our short-term objectives based on the approvals tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Manager Williams. Yes, this is you really, when you read off that list, you really see the connection between that and what we voted on tonight on the American Rescue Plan funds. Okay, so I guess it's time to take a vote on this. Then the question is on the adoption of the approval of the strategic plan. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, and the strategic plan is approved. All right, we are moving on, and let's get through one more item and then take a short break. To item 11, and that's the LRC changes to the amendments to the special events ordinance. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve this?
I'll move to approve it.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and this is coming out of the thank you both. And this is coming out of the Legislative Review Commission. So I'd also like to ask the chair, Commissioner Edwards, to speak to this as well first, and then we'll follow up with the two people who made the motions.
Sure. I think we made some small changes here to help the police and other downtown institutions manage these special events with liquor and beer and wine sales. And we got great input from staff and ready to move forward. Looks good. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Commissioner Houle, would you like to add anything to that as the person who made the motion?
Just another great example of the many things that keep moving through the machinery of government, ever improving, never ending, but always making room for really cool things to happen in this community. So thanks to staff for that, and excited to support it.
Wonderful. And Commissioner Link is the seconder. Do you have anything to say before I move on to Commissioner Davenport?
I'm just looking forward to some special events. AthFest announced, I believe, today that they've set a date, June 24th through 26th, and let's hope it's back for real.
Wonderful. And Commissioner Davenport? Speaking. Can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, I meant to call Judd Drake this afternoon. This looks good. I'm looking forward to supporting this. Just one quick question, and when it talks about allowing a beer cans, so it coincide with only using recyclable beer cans. Does that have to be included in this, or do we have to add an ordinance do we have to add our existing ordinance about using recyclable material? That's it.
I don't think this says containers for beer and wine should be reusable, compostable, or recyclable and should not exceed 24 ounces. So that's going to be the requirements. Reusable, compostable, or recyclable. And glass containers of any kind are strictly prohibited.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Davenport?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone who wants to speak against this? If not, I'll ask Attorney Drake to read the ordinance, and then we'll take a vote on it.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to special events and for other purposes.
Thank you. And this is then we're making the question is on approval of this amendment. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. And can I have anyone make a motion to take a 10-minute break?
I would actually say, Ms. Mayor Pro Tem, that I think we only have a couple of items left. I mean, if others like to take a break, I understand, but I think we might be able to.
We do have public input.
Oh, we do? Oh.
I mean, possibly public input at the end of the meeting. So, I mean, we can keep it short.
Move to recess for 7 minutes.
Cool.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 7 minutes. We'll be back here at 8:12. Hi, everyone, and we're back to finish up this 1st of March meeting. And we are now on agenda item, which agenda? 12, which is the termination of the purchase option agreement with Allen Properties and the Unified Government of Athens-Clarke County. Can I have a...
So moved. So moved.
I'll second.
All right.
I'd like to put a substitute motion to hold this. Upon further investigation, I recognize that this little sliver of property would mean the only public access to a very large 66-acre tract of property, undeveloped property. And as we're developing our strategic plan for affordable housing and homelessness, I feel like this is an ideal tract of land that should be considered in that plan. It's ideally located within walking distance to Target and the Walmart grocery store and a whole bunch of, potential employment centers, public transit. I just feel like we should not give this parcel up right away while we're undergoing this process and incentivizing and encouraging affordable housing.
Do we have a second on that motion to table this? Is this to table it for 1 month, Commissioner Link, or?
Until a future meeting, at least until we've gotten that strategic plan released, so we can understand, the locations where we'd like to focus. And this is, this option on this property, I foresee, could give some leverage on talks with the developer to incorporate some of this housing that we have dire need for. Yeah.
Let's see if we have a second on this. Do we have a second to delay this for 1 month, or delay this to a future meeting? As there's no second.
I'd potentially be willing to second it, but I guess I'm trying to understand if what is being suggested here is feasible from a legal perspective, given what the option that we have on it exists for. I don't know if Attorney Drake can enlighten us on that at all.
Yes, I can speak to that issue if you'd like, Commissioner.
That'd be great. Thanks.
You pull that.
So I guess I'll second it for the sake of having this discussion. So,
well,
I yield my time.
Here's a little. If we're going to be particular about Robert's Rules of Order, what we should be doing here, this should be a motion to postpone indefinitely, which is not debatable, and versus we use lay on the table, and I'm looking at now in Robert's Rules of Order, lay on the table just means until the meeting to lay on the table for further action.
Yeah, lay on the table is not debatable. The postpone indefinitely is.
That's correct. Lay on the table is not debatable. The postpone date. You're right. Let me see here.
Lay on the table, just like
lay on the table is just for the current meetings. You're right, but
hey, just table this real quick so we can handle something important. We'll get back.
And then come back to it this meeting. But so this is really not a lay on the table. This is a motion to postpone indefinitely, I guess, or to a time certain.
Yes,
and that's what I understood Commissioner Link's motion to be when she had said to a future date. Is that what you're saying, Commissioner Link?
Is because I recognize, the vast potential of this property and the fact that we have this inclusionary zoning ordinance that's coming out, a homelessness and affordable housing strategic plan that's coming out. I just feel like.
Well, I think it's important to note
is kind of critical to those potential future needs. I mean, we may not want to. I mean, it would certainly take. Consultation with the developer, but we have put in position, we have funding through ARPA for these needs that we've just approved, identified the buckets for. These are dire needs, and I recognize that available developable land in our community, especially in ideal locations that are near transit and job opportunities and grocery stores, et cetera, are so few and far between. When we develop affordable housing, we want it to be in a location that is accessible to folks who need affordable housing.
So,
Attorney Drake, did you want to address this? Or
yes, I was going to just say, the terms of the option indicate that the only way we can acquire this tract is if we do meet the following conditions, which is number one, acquisition by ACC of the necessary right-of-way to complete the project, commonly known as the perimeter connector. Receipt by ACC of the necessary approvals from the Georgia Department of Transportation to allow interconnection to the perimeter connector with the roadway known as the Athens Perimeter Highway. Approval of necessary funding to complete the perimeter connector, including the interconnection with the Athens Perimeter Highway, and the written commitment of ACC to diligently pursue and complete the construction of the roadway improvements contemplated.
Okay, so
what I was going to say is that staff indicates in the agenda item that it does not believe ACCGov will be able to meet all four of these conditions within the required time frame. Right-of-way acquisition will be lengthy and contentious as current property owners in the area have voiced their opposition to selling the necessary land for the project purpose. As stated above, GDOT has not shown interest in pursuing this project with their funding. While GDOT may approve this as a 1% locally funded project, staff does not foresee the state contributing any significant amount to the cost of this project. They also indicate that this project is not currently in GDOT's or Maycorp's transportation improvement plan, TIP, or long-range plans, meaning it's not a candidate for substantial grant dollars at this point.
Okay, the agreement that we have on the table that we're looking to terminate is purely referencing the transportation of this property.
That's correct. The reason we had the option agreement was for us to be able to purchase that triangle of property, small triangle property, but it was conditioned on basically us building out this connector road, which staff indicates is not in plans.
So the agreement would not allow us to purchase it for any reason other than transportation.
And
we couldn't purchase. This is not to purchase that 60-something acres. This is just for allowing for a road to go in called the perimeter connector.
Yes, that's correct. So it's just a very small piece of property that is on, the requester's side, not the 66 acres, and the road that this agreement contemplates is a $40 million extension that is not currently in our TIP, or we don't have funding identified, and GDOT's it's not one of their priorities either. So the requester is simply saying, look, we had hoped that this would work out, but it doesn't look like we're heading in that direction. I'd like to use my small piece of property that I've given you this, first right of refusal, if you will, and I'm ready to move on and develop my small piece of property in a way that I need to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand that. I understand that the original intention of having this agreement was if this roadway were to go through, that would access the perimeter. But being that project is no longer feasible and not going to happen, this tiny piece of property is the sole access from the public right-of-way to that undeveloped 66 acres that could have potential to fit into our strategic plan for affordable housing and homelessness. And, I just want to see that plan before we give up what might be a public access, the sole public access to a large developable piece of property in an ideal location for affordable housing. And being that we have this inclusionary zoning ordinance, that, we may want to enter some kind of negotiations with the future developers of that. And this little chunk of property could figure into that. If that's a reasonable proposition, or not even proposition, but just like, I don't know, pipe dream fantasy, like just, card in the back pocket thought, considering we have plans that are currently in the planning stages.
Thank you, Commissioner Link. Before we go on, I just wanted to just clarify, do we have a second of that from Commissioner Houle to postpone this?
Yeah, I think I'm going to. It doesn't make sense to me to postpone it based on what I've heard today and previously from the attorneys about what we can do with the purchase option agreement. So I appreciate what Commissioner Link is getting at, and maybe that warrants us trying to talk, look at that among the many other properties that I know staff looks at when they do site selection processes. But this little triangle at the back of this lot that we're talking about, we'd have to use a specific way that we can't with this contract. So I think I'm prepared to move forward with this agenda item tonight. As an aside, I know that there's a lot of people who live in adjacent neighborhoods who are concerned about what development can come in there. And so I appreciate the desire to take a discerning eye at what's happening there, but it just doesn't seem appropriate to me to leverage this particular agreement for that purpose. So, thanks.
Then, are you withdrawing your second, Commissioner Huell?
Yes.
All right. Assuming we do not have another second, let's go back to the original item on where we had a
I motioned to approve.
A motion by Commissioner Wright and a second by Commissioner Parker. Okay. And Commissioner Wright, did you want to talk to your motion?
No, I think that there's been enough discussion on this, not just in this meeting, but also in executive session. So I think it's
okay. Thank you.
I'm ready to vote.
Okay. And Commissioner Parker on the second?
I'm ready to vote as well.
Wonderful. Okay, then the question is on the this agenda item for the termination of the purchase option. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it. And we will move on to the next agenda item. Okay, I believe that on the agenda, we also have agenda number 13 is the North Downtown Athens Development Project Intergovernmental Agreement with regard to payment in lieu of taxes with the Athens Housing Authority, and we only have that in title only.
Motion to hold.
A motion to hold. A second. Any discussion?
Second.
Okay. Okay. All in favor of holding this, say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and we will move on. The next item on the agenda is the text amendment for the voluntary inclusionary zoning, but it's actually really an announcement of the public hearing on that. Right now, that's being announced through the, what do we call it? In the newspapers, right? And so the public hearing and vote on that will be tentatively on Tuesday, April 5th. Okay. I believe that concludes old business, and we're going to move on to the new business, which is the consideration under suspension of rules of the ordinance for the 27th declaration of a local state of emergency. Would anyone like to make a motion concerning that?
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Yep. Okay, let's have that motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Okay, the first was from Commissioner Huell? Right.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor of suspending the rules?
Aye.
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 Okay,
Who was
no.
on that?
Commissioner Parker. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, now that, and we just approved that, everyone said aye. So we are moving on to that ordinance for the 27th declaration of a local state of emergency. Do I have a motion on that?
I'll move to approve that.
I'll second.
Okay, that's the motion was made by Commissioner Huell and a second by Commissioner Denson. Commissioner Huell, do you need to speak to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to, this is the same emergency declaration we've been operating under. Hopefully we're seeing ourselves through the end of this, pandemic situation, but I guess that's not super clear yet. But our numbers are low, so just for the benefit of the public, we are below that recommended threshold for when the mask mandate is going to be enforced. So we are currently below those numbers, which is very good. Everybody celebrate, hug each other, but maybe still do so cautiously because we continue to be in the midst of a pandemic. If you haven't been vaccinated yet, please do get vaccinated. And also as a side note, just for the record, I think I saw Commissioner Link trying to voice opposition for, I think it was agenda item 13. So that might not have actually passed unanimously.
Did
There
that
was
get,
like a muting issue, but anyway, just to make that note for previous.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and Commissioner Denson?
I think Commissioner Hill put it well. I will say, just to make further clarification, I think the item that Commissioner Link voted no against was item 12, not 13, just to clarify.
Okay. Right. Thank you so much there for that clarification. And Commissioner Link, did you want to address this?
Yes, I'll just say a few words on the emergency declaration. I just want to remind folks that although our numbers are low, the last I looked, the CDC said we were in an area of medium transmission, which means that the indoor mask mandate recommendation is not necessarily a thing, but there are people out there who are immunocompromised and people who live or work or have family members who are immunocompromised. So there are still a lot of folks out there who need to be very, very cautious. And I would ask that people truly respect that. I know plenty of folks will continue to wear their masks, as long as there is any hint of transmission out there. So I hope that people will respect that lots and lots of folks are going to continue to be cautious, myself included. My father is immunocompromised, so I am particularly cautious when I know I will be visiting with him.
Thank you, Commissioner Link. And Commissioner Davenport?
Yes, just one quick question. We got an email earlier today concerning, today was a busy day. We got an email concerning the mask mandate or revision to that. Can someone, colleagues, explain that?
Or perhaps Manager Williams?
Yes, thank you. On February 25th, the Centers for Disease Control revised their guidelines with respect to how they classify levels of transmission in communities. And they've moved to a new methodology, as was alluded to, of low, medium, and high. Previous, and some of one of your policies you adopted in the past referenced substantial and high transmission. So previous to February 25th, they tracked different criteria to on their guidance. And as you know, we have always, rather than coming up with arbitrary thresholds, we have looked to our public health officials at the CDC to give us guidance. So that being the case, Commissioner Link's correct. Under the new data points that they track, we are in a medium. Clarke County, Athens-Clarke County is under medium, which does not require indoor mask wearing. And it does not specify vaccinated versus unvaccinated. As it turns out, today was the first day that we fell below the 50 cases per 100,000, which is tied to the old methodology and is part of an ordinance that, or a policy that you adopted that we need to come back and revisit just to index it to the most recent CDC guidelines. So I know that's a lot, but all that being said, both with the old CDC definition, we are below the threshold that requires mask, and including the new guidance that they give. So in both cases, we're not requiring those masks. So I will be letting the employees of Athens-Clarke County know tonight that they are no longer required to wear those masks indoors, according to the CDC.
Commissioner Link, did you want to follow up with a question here or a point?
CDC still recommends mask wearing on public transit. So
yes,
I just want to make sure that on our buses that we still will require mask wearing. Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, Attorney Drake, would you read this ordinance?
An ordinance for the 27th declaration of a local state of emergency related to COVID-19 and for other purposes.
Okay, let's take our vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nay?
Aye.
Aye.
Also aye, sorry.
Okay, delayed ayes. Any noes? Ayes have it, and this is passed. This gets us through the new business, and perhaps we can have the let us know what's going on in City Hall if there's anyone there for public comment. This is a time for anyone who wants to speak to the mayor and commission on any item other than those listed on the agenda can speak up. Is there anyone in here for public comment tonight?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
My name is Patrick Armour, evangelist, pastor, First Nations Apostolic, and I On behalf of the mask mandate, I am very concerned about why there was even ever a mask mandate. I mean, shouldn't that be people's choice? I mean, I'm not trying to pick sides here, but I'm saying, shouldn't that and the vaccine be people's choice other than mandate?
Are you asking a question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, this is a time to make comments. So this is not usually a time when we're talking back. So we'll receive your comments.
Okay, so I'll just make a comment on homeless then.
Okay.
Okay, so there is so many homeless people over there over at the church at College Station. There was a whole bunch of homeless people, and they got kicked out, basically, not by the pastor. The pastor allowed them to stay, but the police office told them they had to leave. And all the other people who were involved in that, like city officials and stuff, told them they had to leave. Now, I'm wondering, since that is private property, if the pastor of the church who is in head bishop over that church, if he says it's okay to stay, then why is there so? Why governance? I want to know what can be done about that. Government's doing something.
Thank you for your comment, and I'll follow up with your reaching out to me individually tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else in the chamber for public comment? Okay. No one else for public comment then? One last chance. Okay, then we will finish up our public comment for tonight. And we will move on to receive reports from the mayor, manager, and then final comments from the commissioners. And as the mayor pro tem, I just do want to make sure, and I'm not sure if Mayor Gertz announced this before or not, concerning the Adopt Athens proclamation that's listed on here. There's a new adopting organization, Wayfair, and they are adopting the section of road between Newton Bridge Road between Chase Street and Vincent Drive. And that's all I have for tonight. Manager Williams?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. You'll note there's a couple of grants that we've accepted on behalf of the police department and PIO, and I do want to point out the Public Information Office, it's a small grant, but they've accessed that for years now to augment their staff with an intern. So thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much, Manager Williams. Attorney Drake, do you have any reports for us tonight?
No, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you so much. So we're going to move on to our commission input, and I'm going to do a nice, easy thing and start with Commission District 1. Make it easy for myself. And when we get to Commission District 10, I'll ask Commissioner Hamby to make a motion to adjourn. So
move.
Yeah.
Okay, short and sweet. First of all, happy Women's Month, especially to these lovely women that I get to share as colleagues, Link, Parker, Myers, and Wright. Thank y'all, and all the lovely other women that are out there in our great community. And thank Cleveland Strong.
I'm not a lovely woman, Commissioner.
Oh, I'm sorry, Thorne. I was looking at pictures. I'm sorry. Commissioner Thorne as well. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. Okay. And Gene Spratling as well. Thank you. Thank you, Cleveland Sproul, for all you have done. He's unfortunately retiring from civil service March 10th. I just want to give a shout out for all the great work he has done. And do not be a stranger, but always remember, go Dogs.
Thank you, Commissioner Davenport. Commissioner Parker?
I don't think I have anything to report tonight. But I also want to give mad props to Pro Tem Myers for doing a great job at her first meeting.
Yeah, well, ready to take a deep breath. Wonderful. Thank you. Moving on to Commissioner Link, District 3.
Yeah, I'd just like to express my solidarity with the people of Ukraine who are undergoing the invasion by a fascistic dictator and the overthrow of their democracy. And I'd like to offer some context to that global situation and the perilous state of democracy in our own community, and how our Republican legislators and those who have colluded with them and cheered them on are taking a page out of a war criminals book. This is exactly the kind of practice that Vladimir Putin engaged in securing power across Russia and destroying whatever fledgling democracy they had in the wake of the fall of the Soviet Union. The same technique that Xi Jinping has used in China, that Hitler used in Germany in the last century. This is a fascist playbook, and it is being enacted in our community, the petit coup of 30% of our local government. And I hope that we will condemn it at every turn. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Link. I do see a note from Manager Williams, who said he has one more thing to say. So let's take a break before we get to District 4 and hear from Manager Williams.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Hamby. I did want to share something that the public information officer had shared with me. That was a great thing to note in the manager's report, and that is March the 5th marks 20 years since ACCGov began televising live meetings on ACTV. So that's been going on as far as transparency and connecting with folks, and that's all been made possible by our PIO staff. And of course, as you know, during the pandemic, that's expanded greatly. So thank you very much to Jeff and his staff, Jason as well.
Thank you. And now back to Commissioner Wright.
Input. Yeah, back to input. Thank you for that. And Jeff shared that with us at this point in time. I think the main thing that I would want to cover at this time is what a great, recognition it was today for Chief Spruill and the massive amount of things that he's done and the positive culture that he's built for our police department and with the community that they work with. Today at Linden House, it was really good. The highlight was for me to meet one of our K-9 officers as well, Bruno. But it was main thing I want to share that he, I guess I'll quote one of him versus some of the quotes that were also shared, was that I believe it was something to the effect of he came here to work with the department and he made them a family. And I think that there's lots to be said about, and that was quite obvious with today's recognition and comments that were made. Manager Williams, you did a good job as well, but also from the police department team, and a couple of commissioners took the mic. But anyway, it was a good send off, and I think we all wish him well. 35 years in that realm is a passion for sure. Definitely not being done for the money.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Denson.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Appreciate it. And yeah, I will definitely join in and congratulating Chief Spruill and wishing him the best as he moves on in his retirement. And I just have one other thing here. Just one other announcement that right now the Juneteenth 2022 Planning Committee has put out a call, a survey, asking for folks to help the Planning Committee create events for the community around Juneteenth. And so that survey is now live. And to try to find it a little bit easier, try to create a URL. You can do tinyurl.com/AthensJuneteenth to find that. And Manager Williams, I would ask, it would probably be good if we could have that put onto the website. I couldn't find it on ACCGov. But right now the URL is really long, so it might be helpful just to have it on there for people easily to find it. But that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And we'll move on to Commissioner Hool.
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. I want to thank the many members of our community who continue to organize and push for transformation, not just in City Hall or through this government, but also in our streets and neighborhood. I was proud to walk 2.23 miles with members of AADM and other members of the community to honor Ahmaud Arbery. I'm very grateful that our community showed up to express solidarity with the people of Ukraine at this terrible moment in their history and this troubling moment in our world's history. But we're always holding both the pain of struggle and the pain of loss, also the joy of connection, the beauty of the present, the hope for a brighter future. And I really want to thank my colleagues and the staff of this government and the public servants and healthcare workers around our community who have continued to show up and work hard in the wake of all of these intersecting layered crises. The violence that we're enduring and witnessing, the pandemic, the climate breakdown, the threats to our democracy. That all exists alongside people continuing to show up for and with each other. And I hope that we continue to move forward remembering both, because it's never appropriate to turn a blind eye to the problems of our world, but it's also only a disservice to ourselves and each other to forget the good work that we're doing and the big hearts that people have in this community. Thanks.
Thank you. And Commissioner Edwards.
Thanks, everybody, for a pretty well-organized, efficient meeting. It's 8:47. Have a good night.
It's pretty good. And we're passing through me, but I'm going to use this opportunity to share some information from the police. The deputy chief of police asked actually Commissioner Edwards and myself to share, and that is that there will be another Citizen Police Academy starting on April 5th, and that they are taking applications through March 21st and are looking forward to making this a more hands-on, interactive program. So I encourage people to do that. I did that before coming on board, learned an awful lot. So just check that website out for that. And I'll pass it back to Commissioner Thornton then. Are you muted?
I also want to recognize, I do think you did a great job facilitating this portion of the meeting tonight. And I'm glad some of my commissioners are recognizing what is going on in Ukraine. I'm prayerful every day at 12, and Ukraine is one of the situations that I pray about. I will say this, and I was kind of hesitant, but I'm gonna go for it. This last month has been very difficult for me, and there have been a lot of misinformation, a lot of confusing information, and at times it feels that my integrity has been strained. I do feel as though that hurt people, and I get that also. I don't know what else I can say, and to tell the truth, I'm not going to try to figure it out. I just want folk to know, no matter what, I'm going to love on people, and I'm going to love you, and there's nothing you can do about me loving you. There's nothing you can do about it. So with that, in closing, I'm going to put on my Nehemiah spirit. I'm going to stay on the wall, and I will be running for District 9 Commission seat. This is my official announcement, and I hope that some kind of way that some of the healing begins so we can do some good work still. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thornton. And Commissioner Hamby, take it away.
All right, hang on. Okay, here I am. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Myers, and I appreciate your leadership tonight. I just real quick, a few things. Josh Edwards, Jeannie Connell, and Gavin came out and helped with some right-of-way issues along for Kingswood along Timothy Road this week, and I appreciate them doing that. I wasn't expecting all of that, but they do appreciate it. And also Tim Griffith. You just can't get any better than Tim Griffith over in our transportation traffic engineer guy. He always looks for solutions, and he's helping with an issue over on Dudley Drive. So I appreciate that. And on that note, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second from Commissioner Wright. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And thanks everyone, and have a good rest of the week.
Good job, Carol. Well done.
Thank you.
Commissioner,
Thank you.
Commissioner Myers, thank you.
All right.
Well done.
Bye-bye.
Mayor Pro Tem, good job.
All right.